It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Well, folks, it's a $260 million budget, and these people have control over $127 million. That's your dollars. Who am I talking about? The Luzerne County Council. Today, folks, we're going to talk to the chairman and the vice chairman. The chairman, very happy to know that our friend Rick Morelli, star of our Inside Scoop show, is the chairman. And a very good friend of mine, nice to see him, is Ed Brominski. He used to be our county commissioner. And Ed, so nice to see you, really.
My pleasure, sir.
It was a pleasure seeing you with the friends up there at Isabella's that one night.
Yes, it was.
It was a good gathering, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, were you there? No, he was not important, that's right. Rick, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you,
I don't know if you congratulations, and the same thing with you, Ed, you've been involved for a long time. I was never a fan of this, government, because I think the county commissioners, I think you were a former county commissioner, but how is this new form of government working?
I think it's working well. I really do. We're only 2 years into it. We're still learning. We're still trying to fill in a lot of the gaps and the problems that we had before. But the most important thing is we are on the right track. My concern is that we're just not going as fast as we can, and that's why I'm really excited to be the new chair of council. I think in the last 2 years, I don't think council did the job that they were supposed to do under the charter and being the watchdogs and really pressing on the accountability of the executive branch. And myself and Ed, and I'm sure Ed will say the same thing, that I think you're going to find a council here that's going to be more proactive, take the ball and run with it and do more things. And now it's time to show the public what this new government's about. I said before, the honeymoon is over in the sense of the change and transition. We now need to start showing the public the positive things of the county.
Ed, you were a former county commissioner.
Yes.
And I asked you in my office, and I was surprised to hear your answer. Were you for this new form of government?
Yes, definitely.
Why?
I was dissatisfied with the way things were going under the commissioner form of government, and I became involved probably 2.5 years before the actual vote. And as I began to learn more about the charter form of government, I became convinced that it was a good form, and it is a good form of government. I also have a friend of mine who is in association with a person from Polk County, Florida. And they are the largest county in the United States of America. And they also have a charter form of government. And this fellow down there said it's the best thing that ever happened to them. If you take a look at the charter, and Rick was part of the development, the way it's developed, it really is an article that does make a difference in government. I think it definitely will, once it starts going, we get things going, that it's going to be second to none.
So this form of government, okay, just for those people, who, I don't know if they voted for the change because of the problems the county were having, and they were using this, Attorney DeLuca was using the form, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. This form of government, why is it so much better? I'll ask you, Rick, and you respond, Eddie, because you were a county commissioner. Why is it?
I would say two things. The form of government that the people voted in is what's called a council manager form. You have a council who's like a board of directors. You have a manager that we hire who's kind of like a CEO, and then the CEO has 8 divisions, which is his cabinet. And the key about this government is that it's everything, there's more accountability. If somebody does something wrong, everything is going to roll up. I said it before, the biggest problem with the old form of government, even some of the past commissioners who were against this, the biggest problem were the row offices. You had all these row offices that were independent, they did their own thing, and there was no communication between them, the commissioners, and there was a lot of problems that fell through. Here's a great example that the people of the greater Hazleton area could understand. Our budget, the 127, is very similar to the Hazleton area school district budget, almost identical. The county's debt is $380 million. The school district debt is $110 million. That's a big difference. So you have to say, how the heck could the county have put themselves in that much debt because of the structure? They continue to borrow and borrow and borrow to pay the bills. And that's something that you're going to find with this new county, that we are being more responsible in how we spend. We have to be able to spend on what we have. We just can't keep going out there and borrowing money. And so that's one of our challenges that we have right now.
So Ed, as you went through the process of being the county commissioner and seeing, now you sat on the board for 2 years, okay? My question was, or my comment was when Ricky was talking about this, is that this is going to turn into like a school board, a majority minority, okay? And then you have this one particular person, whoever the manager is, has a lot of power, okay? How do you control that power, and how do you refrain, Now, I've never met the gentleman, okay? I would love to have him on my show just so he could explain it. I'm sure he's a fine person. I don't know. But as I remember being the chairman of the Community College Board, we made sure that our job was to see that the college was properly run and we had budgets to run. So my question to Ed, being a former county commissioner, how do you have control of what's happening?
Well, as you said, Sam, when you were on a community college board, you were very active, as I remember, in the community college, and you did oversee the actions of it, and you did make sure that the president of the college did abide by certain rules and regulations. Unfortunately, at the present time, has not been the situation. The council has not really injected itself, as Rick intends that we should, to oversee what was going on. As I said earlier, it is an excellent form of government. It will work. But we all have to participate in it. I'm talking about the whole council. It makes no difference if it's 5 or 11. It's the variety of opinions, but it's the involvement that was not there before. The manager doesn't have any more power than the charter gives to him. However, if he oversteps his bounds, it is up to the council to say, stop, you're going too far. Truthfully, in my opinion, that hasn't been done so far.
That hasn't been done?
Has not.
Okay. Because I know you were very vocal about that, Ed. You were very vocal, particularly with this last election, and the fact. Now, do you see, you won by 1 vote. Okay. Now.
As chairmanship.
As chairmanship. Okay. I know that you were a high vote getter when you first ran.
Right.
But the point is this, Rick. Do you see this going to be a 6-5 thing, right? Are we going to have this nonsense of, back and forth,
No, I don't. And we have a lot of different issues. It was 6-5 because the philosophy of how we approach the executive side is different. Again, what Ed was alluding to is you have some members who are, Bob, do whatever you want, Bob Lawn, who's the county manager, do whatever you want, and then you have some of us who are, no, Bob, you need to check and you need to give information, and that's what I want to do is get more information flowing from the executive branch to the legislative branch. In my opinion, although all the council members are all very good people, some of them were, Bob, do whatever you want. That's not the way this charter was set up. It's about accountability, and we are the overseers. And we cannot go and tell Bob Lawton what to do, but we certainly have the right to ask him what you're doing, how you're doing it, and why you're doing it. And that's the information that needs to flow from his office to the legislation out to the public.
Ed, for accountability purposes, when you were county commissioner, you were there for 4 years. We didn't like it. You went out. Okay, so now what happens? Where's the accountability with with the executive, with the manager? How is that?
Well, as Rick said, hopefully we're going to set up guideposts, milestones, and as we go along, these milestones will be met. If they're not met, why not? If you can't do the job, why can't you do it? We want reasons for it. If it's just you can't do it, well then, obviously, I don't believe it would be a 6-5 a vote that says, wait a minute, you're not doing your job. I believe that the whole council will recognize that if you're doing your job, including us, great. And I've been critical of the manager. I hold no reservation about that. But if he's doing his job, I'm going to support him because it's in the best interest of Luzerne County. In the same way, if he's not doing his job, I'm going to be asking questions. But the word I think that Rick used that is really critical is oversight. The council has the complete oversight. However, on some instances, our oversight has been kind of blocked. We haven't been able to get the information that we want. And that's because we have not had the complete support of the council.
All right, folks, I'm talking to Rick Morelli and Ed Brominski. Rick is the new chairman of the Luzerne County Council, and Ed Brominski is the vice chairman of the Luzerne County Council. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Remember, 24/7, you can watch this on ssptv.com. Every show that we've had, the girls all around the town, the Sam Lesante Show. So if you missed some shows we've had, they're there. Also, my email is sam@ssptv.com, and I always welcome people's opinions. March, folks, we're going to have an interesting show. My extreme liberal friend, I've told him he could come on the show, and it's going to be an interesting show, folks. So I want to give everyone a shot here. My guest today is Rick Morelli, who is the chairman of the Luzerne County Council, and Ed Brominski, good friend of mine, who is the vice chairman of the Luzerne County Council. Talking about challenges, okay? So so what happens is you set a goal, or we had this is our mission statement, and then you have to make sure that it's obtained. Is it my understanding, Ed, that this is what this new board is going to be doing, setting different criterias up or whatever, guidelines or whatever, and then making sure that they're followed?
That's correct. And as I said, Rick has a plan, and I completely endorse it. And he has a plan now to set up, aims and goals and milestones to be met. And if all of us participate in it, all of the members of council participate in it, we can start moving this forward. We can start bringing economic development into Luzerne County. There are a number of ideas that I have, and I'm sure other members of council have ideas. The biggest issue that we have to face right now is revenue. Where do we get new revenues from? We can't keep getting it from the taxpayer. It's going to run dry. So we have to try to encourage new interests to come into Luzerne County so that they can spend their dollars here. It's terrible, but I remember one time talking to a fellow, and he said to me, "You know what the biggest industry in Luzerne County is?" And I said, "No, what?" He said, "Warehousing." And unfortunately, he's probably right on a lot of that. We have to bring you right here in this area, though. Humboldt Park, I think, is a premier example of what can be done. But we have to spread it to the upper end of the county. It's not really being done up in the Wilkes-Barre area.
So, what's some of your plans?
Well, if you followed myself on this on the council over the last 2 years, I've been very frustrated because I feel like we've gone to meetings, things were thrown on the table, there was no direction. We voted on items the same night they were presented to us, $1 million contracts, which how could you be accountable to the people when you're voting on $1 million contract and presented the information the same night? My plan is not something I created. It's something that everyone else does. The school districts, municipalities, the state. We're going to go to a committee, work session, voting meeting structure. No more surprises. Going back to my football days, I'm taking the 11 members on this council who all bring some different values and putting together very good teams to work on these different committees, to break ourselves up, to address the issues. Mr. Brominski just hit it on the head. We have to go out and find more revenue. We cannot keep going back to the taxpayers and asking them for more taxes. So what we're going to do is we're going to break ourselves up to committees, and we're going to go to work and start addressing some of these issues and looking at them and moving them forward. And that's one thing where Mr. Brominski and I are on the same page. We want to see growth in the county. We want to see the council to be proactive, and unfortunately we just haven't. And again, I'm not putting down the other council members. I just feel that some council members were just very happy to be part of a new government. But really, we have a job to do. And one thing about me, Sam, is I don't like to have my time wasted, and I don't like to waste other people's time. We're going to get down to the legitimate county issues, confront them, and we're going to move forward.
As a county commissioner, okay, you saw the county, and there's a lot of great talent that we have in our county. So there are a lot of boards. Okay, I was appointed, as a trustee for the community college, and I had the same goal that Rick has, is that we had objections that we had to clean up, and we did. Then it became political at the end, okay, as we all know that story. But anyway, I'm not going to get. My point is that how do you use the talent? Okay, for example, I said to Rick, I want to be on the arena board. Now, why? Because my background is in entertainment, and work with Jack, and I think I could be of help. I'm making a plug here, as you know. No, seriously. So he said, well, so how does one apply? Because if they have a talent that they could bring to this area or to different boards, how do they go about doing that?
Well, we have an ABC committee, which as vice chair I will be now chairing.
Which stands for Authorities, Boards,
and
Commissions.
I'm sorry, Authorities, Boards, and Commissions. And there's a website, county website, where you can get an application to apply and say, it has a list of the different authorities, boards, and commissions that you can make application for. That will be forwarded to the committee, and then probably you would be interviewed, and a selection process. You would follow the selection process based on your interview.
I'm sorry.
It's something that we implemented in this new government in the past, quite frankly. if you knew the commissioners and
Yeah.
you did a favor for them, they put you on.
Yeah.
Here, it's an open process. You go on the website, you find out what's open, you put your application in, we have open interviews, and then the council is going to hopefully select the best person.
I think it's a good thing. I mean, because there are a lot of great people out there that have a lot of talent, okay, and which leads me to, again, I don't know Bob, okay, I really don't. I mean, other than hearing about him, and I'm sure he's a fine person, but when you were hiring someone, we didn't have anyone in Luzerne County that had the ability to manage, like, you know, a Bob, with all due respect to Bob. We didn't have anyone in Luzerne County.
Well, we had some difficulty, and I'd like to address that, particularly on those issues. I especially asked for redacted resumes of the people not selected to see if the person that was selected was the guy that could lift 500 pounds, or was the guy that was not selected the one that could lift 500. I want to make sure that the best candidate was the one that was selected. Unfortunately, I was told that I can't have that information. So as it turns out now, we don't have the exact oversight that we should have, in my opinion. I think that we will get it. I will say truthfully, you're correct about the fact that we don't have right now many local people that are in the positions. I think we have one, and we have a number of division heads that are still vacant 2 years later. They're still vacant. And my personal opinion is that they shouldn't be. They should have been implemented in the first 6 or 8 months, and if it cost you money, it did, but they would save you money. Getting back to when I was commissioner, one thing I didn't have to worry about was going around and checking, because the people that were doing their work were very responsible, and they did their work, and they had pride and ownership. Right now, there's a difficulty because, truthfully, there are people in positions that are not qualified.
Now, you mean to tell me you were elected to be on the council, and when you asked for other applications, they told you you could not look at them?
Correct.
You have to be kidding me.
I wish I was.
That is totally ridiculous. Absolutely. I would have been screaming, because you were elected to represent us, and you have every right as a council person to look at anything that's going on, and that's where your transparency comes in.
And if you recall, I was the one who wanted the information and names out to the public. Again, that was my problem with some council members, where they were talking about openness and transparency. They got elected, and then when the time came for the most important position, they didn't want to do it. And so that was something that a lot of them didn't agree with me with. But that's what I'm trying to change. Again, my attitude is, I think the public really understands that not everything is perfect.
Yes.
My opinion is, throw everything out to the public, the good as well as the bad. And when the bad happens, just explain, this is the problem, but this is how we're going to address it. Exactly. If you hide things and try to always paint the rosy picture, the public's not dumb, they're going to see through it. And that's my strategy.
Folks, I'm talking to Rick Morelli and Ed Brominski. Rick is the new chairman of the Luzerne County Council, and Ed Brominski is the vice chairman. We're talking about revenue and how can you get involved in our county. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. My guest today, Rick Morelli and Ed Brominski. Rick is the chairman of Luzerne County Council, and Ed Brominski is the vice chairman. And we're talking about ideas of generating income, or some of your plans that you may have.
Well, as I mentioned before, we can't keep going back to the taxpayers, and we can't keep cutting staff. I mean, we are getting to the point where we are very low we're at a level where we can't be cutting too many more people, because we do have to offer services. So we have to go out and find other ways to generate revenue. And we have to start thinking out of the box. And as I mentioned, not only people on council, but people from the public come to our meetings and give some good ideas. Unfortunately, they go nowhere. So some of the ideas that are thrown out there, one of the things that was presented to me was we may have some people coming in and logging. We have a lot of land out there where you could cut down certain trees and we could generate revenue. That's something that, again, let's look into it. It doesn't mean we're going to cut down every tree that we have, but that's a way that we could generate revenue. I brought out an idea, this is funny, and this was someone who came to me and said, the gun permits, you pay $20 for 5 years, why don't you increase it? So this was something I threw out on the table, and my opinion is it doesn't hurt to discuss it. Well, obviously, I had a lot of people, gun owners, who got mad at me for that, and you couldn't do it because it was a state. I didn't realize it was something on the state, but the fact is again, let's throw every idea out there, discuss it, pros and cons, and that's something. We're going to talk about advertising too in the county, maybe putting advertisement on buses inside the courthouse. We have to start thinking outside the box, and the public has to be a little bit open to some new ideas, because the old idea was always going back to the taxpayer, and that's just not good.
Ed, you, as a county commissioner, you know there were ways that you guys were generating them. So what are some of the things that you want to bring to the table?
Well, a good idea was presented, as Rick said, to us at a council meeting by the public about the possibility of using Moon Lake as an advertisement. We have Mohegan Sun is advertising. This is Mohegan Sun Arena. They have, I think they have Cole Street in Wilkes-Barre now. Some car dealerships are having it. We could look into something like that. This is the Mohegan Sun Moon Lake, and they could sponsor Moon Lake, and we could use that revenues at least to have someone out there to take care of the facility and maintain it. I don't know if you were ever at Moon Lake when it was in its heyday, but it was absolutely beautiful. It was the premier place to go. I've had people come and say, well, why don't you allow them to have like chicken roasts out there in the summertime, because there's a lot of traffic there. Yeah. Another idea that I had, and I mentioned, and I'm going to look into it, is the possibility of suggesting to the courts that they go with digital recorders instead of court stenographers. I understand that the court stenographers would be a little bit put out by it, but there's a difference in cost of probably $50,000 to $5,000 a year. Now, on that basis, we have $1 million that we pay right now out of the courts for stenographers. This is done out in Allegheny County. They use digital recorders, and it costs them about $5,000 a year.
Now, how could the public, okay, how could the public get involved? Because you have an open board now, and you have, you know, a lot of things that you're so good and bad on. How could they get involved, Rick?
Well, two things. Number one, I'm putting together an economic development committee, which the purpose of that is for council to work specifically with some of the other leaders of the community. I spoke with Senator John Udicek. We want to get the chambers, and this is something for us now. We have to start working together for the greater and utilize our roles and put them together. But with these committees now, this is an opportunity for the public to come to a specific area with their ideas. Now, again, not everyone's idea is going to get pushed through, and they have to understand that if council doesn't feel it's a good idea, that's fine. Last night we had a meeting, and Ed, and this is kind of funny, someone came to us in the public, and they want us to approve something with a chicken ordinance. A little bit different, but fair enough. It was a fair comment, and it maybe some ideas might be great and some may not be. But the fact is, we're putting a system together that the public could come and get their ideas in front of us.
And I think that's the way. You have to agree to disagree. I hope this board is going to be throw things on the table. Just because I don't agree with you and you're my friend doesn't have anything personal. But that's where the creative juices come, and that's why we were able to build a college for less than $10 million, okay, with Pat Solano and my friends. We worked together, and believe me, there were some heavy discussions, but nothing ever personal. That's the thing, Rick, you know?
Well, and I think the good news with this council, I don't think it is personal. We have Republicans, we have Democrats, we have one independent. We argue, and I want people to debate professionally.
Yes.
I'm opening it up. I want more dialogue.
Yes.
That's what we're put in office for, but we have to keep the personalities out of it, and so far that's been the case, so I'm happy to say that.
So Edward, you think you're going to have some great things for the Luzerne County?
I'm an optimist all the time. My gas tank is always half full, Sammy, and I'm sure that Rick is going to start us off on a real strong avenue.
We'll decide on that. It's always nice seeing you, okay? You were a gentleman when you were a county commissioner, you still are. You know, you always had the best interest for the county, you know, and I have to applaud that, because it's the same thing with Rick when he was on the school board. You know, you set your goals, and you know he got hammered, but the point is you never backed down, Rick. You know, you always were there, said this is the reasons. Sometimes you do things that people don't like, but like you said, the good and bad. How could you go wrong?
It's a very simple philosophy. If you feel strongly about something and you know it's the right thing, you got to fight for it, and you got to go out there. And again, I've been shot down more than anybody on this council, but you don't give up, and you have to keep fighting, and that's what I've been doing.
Well, as long as it's you keep it constructive, it doesn't get personal, you know, and they don't have their agendas, and I think the counties should be really excited, and maybe one day I'm going to be totally convinced that this is the best way to go. I'm surprised at Ed. I mean, he's changed me a little bit, because Ed normally, you know, calls it the way it is, and when he said it was time to make a move, Ed, then you saw that, didn't you?
I was convinced. I am convinced.
Yeah, that's good. Well, listen, nice seeing you, Ed.
My
And Rick,
pleasure.
we're going to get Inside School.
Pleasure.
It's always a pleasure. We're going to get Inside School back, folks. We'll be able to discuss certain things. Rick Morelli, chairman of the Luzerne County Council. Ed Brominski is the vice chair, folks. Get involved. They're telling you right now, you can go to their website, get involved. I know there's a lot of talent out there that you could be bringing to our county and have fun with it, and it'll be exciting. We'll see you next time.